Hi everyone, I welcome you all for my next presentation in distributed computing. So today we are going to discuss about the sharing of resources. The main focus is on sharing of the resources on web. Right? So earlier we have discussed about that one of the main primary motto of using the distributed computing system is for sharing of the resources. It focuses on sharing of the resources. There are so many resources in and around it. Now in this presentation, now how we are going to access those resources for completing my own applications or completing my own task. Right? So when we are talking about the resources sharing, the distributed system, the one thing is comes under our mind is there are so many variety of computing and storage resources are in and around us, which are distributed and located in various geographical locations. Some resources we need to have a cooperative approach, and some resources we should have no one need to directly connect it to the particular resources. So we can access on the remote space. Right? So these are the two varieties of accessing the resources on the website. So typically the sharing of the resources is based on the concept of what is the purpose we are going to use the resources. That is, we can say what is called as the scope of the resources or the scope of the purpose, and the second thing is how closely users work together with the respective resources on the distributed environment. So the entire concentration of the resources sharing, which is based on these two factors. Otherwise, we can say it like as these two factors will decide whether the users who are associated on the distributed computing environment, they have to come closer and work on the resources by using various operations or various services provided by the operating system to encourage the completion of applications, distributed applications. Or otherwise, another experiment, it need not to come closer. Everyone will have on their system in the independent way they can access those resources. Right? One example is now let me move on to my next thing that is called as there are the two experiments in these cases. When we are talking about their scope, whether everyone supposed to come closer to work together, how they are approaching the resources based on these factors, there are the two experiment cases are there. One case, let me take an example of a web search. And second one, sharing of the documents. The sharing of any files. Simply sharing of documents. When we concentrate on the web search, automatically every user who are located on their own locations, they are using the search engines and they are making the query, and it processes it access the repositories, www repositories, and based on the pattern of the search or based on the pattern or based on the query, the www it creates that repository, it creates the indexes are created on the repositories. And based on the index values, now the results are returned back to the end users. Right? So in this context, In this context, the users are need not to come closer. They need not to have any direct communication. Right. And second thing, we have a computer supported cooperative working groups. They are sharing the documents. Like you can in a project you can work in your home. I'm working in my own home. I'm using my own devices, and we are sharing the resources that is called as a files or a databases. Those comes under the category of the computer supported cooperative working groups. They are sharing the resources. It may be a file, it may be any type of a document, we can say that one is called as a database. Now in this case, now everyone is supposed to come closer to work on the shared resources. Alright, so when we are talking about what is the scope when the resource is shared, and how closely the users are worked together, they have to keep in mind of two things, because the distributed system is a heterogeneous system, and both the varieties of users, both the extreme indicators are there with us. And both different types of the users, they are trying to access the resources to complete their applications on the distributed environment. Right? Now, because of this, now it leads to us to discuss about the main focuses on the resources sharing on the web. Now, how we can access those resources, maybe it is in the form of a direct way or in the indirect way. Right? So, to determine that, we need to know what mechanisms the system must supply to coordinate various users on the particular environment, on the particular distributed system. So which factors will decide this? Whether all the users come closer, they have a direct connection, or which were we said that on the website, which I want to follow that concept. Which one is supposed to decide? That is based on the pattern of sharing. So according to the pattern of a sharing and geographic distribution of the particular users, we have to determine what strategy I have to follow to coordinate various users' actions with respect to the resources. So these two factors is supposed to decide what are the actions I need to take towards these resources to achieving the whatever the assigned task. Right? So here what we are trying to do here is we are using certain functionalities. We are going to present certain functionalities to the users for the respective applications by using those resources, that is called as services. So simply we are saying that we are providing the services to the users to complete their whatever the task is assigned, or to complete their applications on the distributed environment. We are providing the various services towards the resources. So it means now whatever may be the type of the user, whatever may be my application, now I have to use the services to access the resources The services is mainly for to access the resources. Now, why I want to access the resource? Because I want to accomplish my task. I need to complete my application. Whatever the applications I have, I need to complete on the distributed environment. So, this services will play the vital role. Now, how the services are achieved? Now, how this entire task is going to be achieved with the help of the services? Here, services are defined with the set of predefined operations. So every service will have a predefined operation. So based on those operations, the accessing of the resources will be done. The accessing of the resources will be performed to complete the respective operation. Let me go with some of the simplest services, example services. As being an end user, as a layman perspective, we are sharing so many resources to the other users. The one resource what we are sharing very often is the file services. So we have certain service providers are there. With that service providers are with certain operations we are trying to share our own documents and trying to share our files. Right? So we access shared files through a file services. And the another one popular example services when you are looking on the industry perspective is the printing service. We send the documents to the printer through the printing services because on the industry perspective, these printers are networked printers. Or even in our environment, in our working environment, is also the printers are the networked printers. And the third service we are frequently, very often we are using. These two services are very oftenly we are using it. And the third service we are using very often, that is called as electronic payment services. By using these electronic payment services, we are buying the goods, we are buying the various products. So these all are distributed in nature. Now we are trying to accomplish the task, whatever may be the file sharing or the printing or ordering of any product. We are trying to utilize those distributed components or those distributed resources by using the set of services. That is, by using the set of predefined operations. According to the applications, the services will vary. If I am looking on the file sharing, that is called as a file services. If I am looking on the printing, that is called as a printing services. Then if I want to order any product, that comes under the category of the electronic payment services. So these are the three services we are using in very often way. And then very often we are using these services. Right? So as I said earlier, now how we can achieve this task? I said, okay, for the scope, the pattern of sharing, as well as also how we are going to access. So based on that, the services are defined. So in a simpler way, on the distributed environment, if I want to utilize any resources or if I want to access any resources, obviously I need a service. If that particular resource service is provided, then only it is possible for me to access. Now how I can do this services that is done with the help of the variety of set of predefined operations. Say for an example, the last slide we have seen the three different services. The first one I have taken the example as the file service. Now what are the operations which are related to the file services? Read is one operation, write and delete. These all are the examples of the operations of the particular service. So every service is defined with the respective operations. So these are the typical images which represent or which illustrate the reading operation and writing operations and deleting operations of the particular file sharing system. So on the files we can do these three operations: read, write and delete. So according to my own purpose, we have to define the operations with the help of the services. Then accordingly we can access the resources. So to understand the entire thing, the main focuses on the resources is based on the services. Now I would like to access the resources. Obviously we need a services. As a layman perspective, the meaning of the service is called as a set of operations I need to perform to access the resources, and to get complete of my own application we need a various steps, we need a various operations. Right. So this services is only providing the set of operations. No, it also provides the restrictions to access the various resources. Restrictions to access the various resources. In case, say for an example, for the file transfer, I may not use the printing services. I may not use whatever operations if I am doing for the electronic payment gateway. The same set of operations I am not in a position to use on the file services. This is the way the restrictions will be done for the various resources. Now, why such a restrictions we need to do is because of this is a part and parcel of the software engineering practice. On the industry perspective, many of the users doesn't have the access to use the printer services. Now, why such a restriction is because of this is a part and parcel of software engineering practices. Right? Now, this it defines the physical organization of the distributed systems. And these resources are also in distributed, that is also in distributed in nature, and which are encapsulated within the computers. Within the computers. Right? Okay, that are encapsulated within the computers. Then how we can able to access? By only using certain communications, or by using certain communication interfaces among the processes, we can utilize or we can access those resources. That's why the services will help us to perform the various operations on the particular particular resources. Right? Okay. For effective sharing, now we seen about the resources. The resources are kept in a different way. So every resources are encapsulated within the computers. Now the restrictions is also provided to access the various resources that can be done with the help of the services. The services are nothing but it's a set of operations, predefined operations. Now, if I want to access the services, obviously I need a communication or communication interfaces. Right. If we move on to the next thing that is called as for effective sharing. For effective sharing of what? The effective sharing of resources. Each resource is managed by a program. That's why I said a process. The communications among the processes. Right? Now these program or processes, it offers a communication interfaces. Now, why I want to have a communication interfaces? Because I want to access those resources. I want to access those resources. I want to utilize those resources. Whenever I am trying to access the resources, those resources are, which is in the form of the consistent. Whenever if I am updating my own files, we have to maintain the consistency so that at the parallel time, at the meantime, if some other user is trying to access the same file, they should not get the different copy of the particular file. Right? So that's why I need to concentrate on the consistency here. Right? So when I have this effective sharing, immediately which is comes in my mind, that is called as, okay, we have a process, why not we will have a server, the well-known buzzword which is called as a server. So all the resources, these processes, I am going to keep it in the particular place that is called as a server. Then it is easy for me to maintain the consistency among the various resources. How? That can be achieved with the help of, whenever if any machine wants to utilize or any system wants to utilize the resources on the particular process, obviously it has to establish the request. It has to send the request. Then every request which is received by the server, that's supposed to be responded. So by using this way, now I can achieve the concept of the consistency as well as also this is one of the effective way of sharing of the various resources. With this context, the server is very popular to manage effective sharing by the way of accepting the request, to provide various services to the requested machine by responding those requests or by responding those queries. Right? So now we know the server right now. Now, who is the client? Now this machine is called as a client. Whichever the machine is sending the request or initiating the request, that machine or that computer is called as a client. The computer is called as a client. So if we follow on the resources sharing and the distributed environment, if we follow this kind of communication among the various machines by using the requests and responses and client and the server, and automatically it leads to the architecture that is called as a client server architecture. This is called as a client server paradigm. right? Separately, we talked about the resources and we spoke about the communication interfaces that can be done with the help of request and response protocols. So the server is having so much of resources, and client whenever it is want to communicate, is want to perform any operations, it is sending the request to access the various resources. So we are following the client server paradigms here. So the requesting process are referred to as the client, and this comes under the category of the client server computing. Right. On the other way, I will go back to my previous slide. On the other way, we can say this communication from client to the server is a client machine is invocate there is a services to the servers. There is services to the servers. One way we can say that is called as a request. What I am trying to do is, one way we can say that is called as a server. Another way we can say that it is called as the client invokes the operations on the server. Operations on the server. Now this methodology, this strategy is called as a remote invocation. As a well-known popular word, RMI, remote method invocation. Right? Then we have question like, if all the distributed systems, whatever the systems are associated in the particular distributed environment, or is this based on the concept of client and server? Absolutely no, not at all. All the distributed systems are using the client and server architecture. Maybe some of the applications it follows this category. Example, the World Wide Web. Obviously, I need to pass the HTTP request and a HTTP response, and then sending of emails and networked printers. All these services, all these applications comes under the category of the client server architecture. Right? So this is the way we can maintain the shared resources on our distributed environment. Right? Thank you so much. If you have any queries, you please ask me. With this, I will stop the presentation.